Now, in my speech, I would like to address a very serious and important matter. So far, my campaign for president has been very well received. Most of the polls are on my side. Although, throughout this week, something so small and so rare has affected many people's lives and ways of thinking. I'm speaking of my opponent in these elections, ABCD syndrome. Its full name, albinism black lock cell migration disorder of the nucleus of the gut and deafness. It's an ironic name and was chosen because the letters relate to the symptoms affected by its supporters. Its father, the Shah-Waardenburg syndrome, was a very similar person to ABCD syndrome. ABCD syndrome is actually an expression of the father, Shah-Waardenburg syndrome, so it wouldn't be false to assume that he made ABCD run.
Life really has been a no, and I fought through it. I have been, and you know, I talk about it. It's not been easy for me. It has not been easy for me. And, you know, I started off in Brooklyn. My father gave me a small loan of $1 million. I came into Manhattan, and I had to pay him back, and I had to pay him back with interest.
My campaign manager, Petrus Johannes Waardenburg, discovered in 1947 that people who sided with the Shah-Waardenburg syndrome got symptoms such as hearing loss and dystopia cantharum. And this is what I would like to talk to you about. My opponent, ABCD syndrome, causes the same effects as the Shah-Waardenburg syndrome. And as you can see the problem right there. People are suffering when they support this cruel person, so I urge all of you not to side with him and side with me, Tanuj. ABCD syndrome really makes you want to support him with the mutation in the EDNRB gene, which also is how its father got through people. And I assure you, I am a much better candidate because I don't want to mutate your genes and give you symptoms. I'm a straightforward candidate who will tell you only the truth, and the truth is that the competitor has got to lose. Its way of getting supporters is horrifying because there's little we can do to stop it. It does it by both people having to have mutations and both copied for it to be passed on, otherwise known as an autosomal recessive manner. And we have little we can do to change your genes to get rid of the syndrome. This is what I have come to warn you about. If we can't do anything to stop it from passing on supporters into becoming more supporters, this is why I have concern. Because even though I'm in the lead now, in the future it could be different. My speech is telling America that we shouldn't trust ABCD syndrome to become the highest ranking position in the United States. Instead, vote for someone who is more capable and will do more right than wrong. Vote for Tanuj Jauhari. If we don't act now, then thousands of more people will be affected. Look at this pedigree. The square is a male and the circle is a female, and the ones in black are people who are supporters of ABCD syndrome. This is just a representation of one family, but what if each circle or square were 1 million people? Then the issue starts to arise. This shows that we must deal with this now or it'll be too late. Supporting it can lead to many symptoms. These include a person to have hair and skin that is much lighter than their parents and siblings. It can also cause abnormalities in the eyes, including sensitivity to light, rapid and involuntary back and forth movement of the eyes, and extreme nearsightedness or farsightedness. The intestinal dysfunction is the most serious issue of the condition and causes poor nutrition, poor weight gain, and abnormal bowel movements, and a possible chance of becoming deaf. Yes, I know. Horrifying, isn't it? This is what will happen when the recessive gene starts to express. The symptoms will occur. There is more. Effects that possibly happen are heterochromic iritis, or they have 2 different eye colors. But the most deadly part is the intestinal failure. People, this is also what I want to warn you about. It affects your children as well, and it is not good. When you side with ABCD, what it does, it stops the neural signals from getting to the intestine, making it so that it can't digest food, which most likely leads to death. Just thinking about it makes me shudder. The newborn fails to pass the meconium, or the first stool, within the 48 hours of life. The children may vomit, and the vomited substance is green or brown. They present the swelling of the abdomen due to the big amount of gases and diarrhea with the blood. If the disease wasn't initially recognized, children experience constipation. I didn't want to give you a graphic image, but I have to get the message out because he's starting to get more and more supporters. And if he gets elected, then our country is doomed. This is what I ask of you to do, the public. I need you to spread awareness about all of this information. Tell it to your friends or family if you need to diagnose. If you need to diagnose a person who is going to support ABCD, you can see it with a few ways. Doctors check the abdominal organs for any signs and hearing testing. Doctors use MRI and X-ray scans of the abdominal organs and is confirmed with a DNA test, which is checking to see if the mutation in the 13th chromosome is present, and then diagnose this child with ABCD syndrome. So tell your doctor if you know someone or if your own child is thinking of supporting ABCD. If we do this, then there's a better chance of stopping the threat that ABCD poses. If somebody is already set on supporting ABCD syndrome and is suffering, there are many ways to manage it, and from what I've heard, families are still able to manage, but just barely. Although, if the disease isn't tracked down in infancy, then the child will die. Things they will have to face is things like hearing loss, which can be helped with hearing aids or surgical implants. They'll also face many digestive problems, but that can be helped with laxatives. They won't have many impacts on their social life other than hearing loss and not too much exposure to the sun. But usually, people can live healthy lives with ABCD syndrome because the effects are very manageable. But even though the effects are manageable, our population, our country, our world is still much more better off abolishing ABCD out of our lives and not vote for him as our president. Me, on the other hand, will be a better thing for America and will be a step towards the future instead of jeopardizing our entire population. Now, back to helping people who have fully taken over by ABCD. There is no cure for ABCD syndrome, although there are multiple treatments for the symptoms. Treatment options may include surgery for intestinal dysfunction and eye issues, as well as hearing aids for deafness. As of now, there are very few supporters of ABCD, but that doesn't mean we should keep our guard down. Treatment options that were used on people who change their mind on who they are going to support includes colostomy, the surgical procedure of creating an opening stoma by drawing the healthy end of the large intestine through incision in the anterior abdominal wall and suturing it. Colectomy, surgical removal of all or the part of the colon. My campaign and many other people are testing ways to help treat people who are ABCD supporters. Gene therapy is something us and other people are trying because the main causes of this disease is a mutation. So if we are ever to use gene therapy, it could be a possibility in getting rid of the disease. Researchers from my campaign and for other organizations have been researching for 20 years and have determined that gene mutation, specifically a homozygous mutation in the EDNRB gene, is the cause of ABCD syndrome. The advancement of technology led to new DNA material testing methods. As you can see, we have good people who will stop ABCD and his plans on becoming elected. Researchers already figured out that ABCD's father, Shah Wardenberg, were related and caused mostly the same thing and same effects when people support him. This connection has been helping doctors because now they know which gene it is affecting and potential ways to stop it. Now, a certain school known as Winston Churchill Middle has a global context that is highly relatable to this situation. This would relate to global context, scientific and technical innovation, because the more we research about ABCD and what it does to people, the more ways we can find to stop them and help people who have been affected. Many innocent lives are being taken by these diseases, and just finding a cure for one disease can lead to many more being stopped and cured for creating a better world. A 14-month-old boy was brought in with a complaint of white hair on the anterior scalp since birth. Some 2 months prior to the presentation, he had required resection and anastomy of the large bowel following intestinal obstruction associated with congenital megacolon. Auditory evoked responses done during neonatal screening for deafness had not shown any abnormality. On examination, the child had white forelock arising out of normally pigmented skin. He had a bruised nasal root, lateral displacement of the medial canthus, and blue-colored irids. A scar resulting from the surgery and the subsequent colostomy was visible over the left and upper middle quadrant of the abdomen. This is just one example of the kids suffering because of the opponent, and with you, we could save many children like this. Thank you for listening for this very important speech, and please take into consideration what I said, and as always, vote for Tanuj.